Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you came prepared to laugh a little bit today. Um, Before we get started with today's presentation, I wanted to do a quick review of last week's session on skill building. You talked about accessing your technology use. How is that technology helpful or necessary, and what you can reduce or eliminate. How to identify and unplug and do it regularly, and then explore screen use guidelines and resources for your family. So today we are going to be talking about beating the winter blues with humor, and I'd like to start off with a poll question. So if you could go ahead and launch that, that'd be great. And it's just, is it important to laugh? Yes, no, I don't know. So I'll give you a few seconds there to record your response. Looks like we've got a few people still left, about 100 people left to respond there. I think we've got an overwhelming majority here, though. Okay, so we have 100% agree yes. Let me see if I can share the results here. And 0% no. So good. I'm glad that we can all agree that laughter is an important part of life. And since there is an entire profession of gelotologists that study laughter and its effects both psychologically and physiologically on the body, and the internet says it, so it must be true, right? So do you believe you can laugh yourself healthy? That's kind of our $1 million question of the day. And we're going to spend some time looking at what the research has to say about it. But first, I did want to share a quick story with you. Several years ago, when my daughter was about 3 or 4 years old, we were out walking and she picked up something off the ground and started to play with it and then put it in her mouth. I took it away from her and asked her not to do that. And of course, she asked that dreaded question of why. So I responded, because it's been on the ground, you don't know where it's been, it's dirty and probably has germs all over it. But, you know, my daughter looked at me with such admiration and she said, "Mama, how do you know all this stuff? You are so smart." And I was thinking quickly and replied, "Well, all mamas know this stuff. It's on the mama test. You have to know it or they don't let you be a mama." And we continued to walk along in silence for a couple of minutes. And I could tell she was pondering, you know, this new information. And then she beamed with excitement and she shouted, "Oh, I get it. So if you don't pass the test, you have to be a dad." And I said, "Exactly," as I replied with a big smile. So I hope you enjoy that story. You know, I hope it didn't offend any of our dads out there. It's just how she saw life in her little eyes there. But after the year we have had, right, with 2020 and combined with the normal funk that sometimes we feel during this time of year, the winter months, I think it's important for us to laugh and focus on those things that bring us joy. So today I really want to just give you guys the opportunity to laugh and discuss some of those health benefits and how we can add humor and laughter to our life. So let me ask you this, and you can respond in the chat. When was the last time you laughed? And I don't mean just a ha-ha, but a really good deep belly laugh, one of those ones that where you get tears in your eyes. So do we have some chats happening? I'm gonna check that out. Okay, good. Good. All right, we have last night, full New Year's Eve, yesterday, about 1.5 hours ago. Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and get this journey started now on laughter. And I thought this was a pretty timely thing to share in the world with COVID vaccinations. Smiles are contagious. Don't worry, I'm vaccinated. What about this one? Who can identify with this? Does anyone know if we can take showers yet, or should we just keep washing our hands? And then we have, now I know I'm not the only one that Siri said this to. You know you're a bad driver when Siri says, "In 400 feet, stop and let me out." And then it is this time of year for Girl Scout cookies, right? ate a box of Thin Mints. Didn't get thinner. I don't think they work. Anybody else identify with that one? So let's see what the research does say about humor and laughter. Some of you might be familiar with Norman Cousin. He was considered the man who laughed in the face of death. And he was the editor-in-chief of the Saturday Review, excuse me, for more than 30 years. And he was the author of Anatomy of an Illness, which some of you might have read. In 1964, he was diagnosed with a rare and fatal disease and was given a few months to live. He decided to use laughter as healing, and he determined in his research that 10 minutes of laughter actually equated to 2 hours of being pain-free. So he ended up living until many years later in the year of 1990. And then we have psychiatrist Dr. William F. Fry from Stanford, and he discovered that laughter provides good physical exercise and decreases the chances of respiratory infections. He found that 20 seconds of laughter is the cardiovascular equivalent to 3 minutes of strenuous rowing. So I don't know about you guys, but I'd much rather do some laugh therapy than any physical activity like strenuous rowing. But he discovered that our body produces those endorphins in our brain, and that's the chemicals that make us feel good. So the more those are released, the better we feel. So that was part of his research. And then you may have heard of Dr. Hunter Patch Adams. He was immortalized in the film by Robin Williams, and he was responsible for the creation of thousands of therapeutic care clowns worldwide. He practiced the idea that the healing should be a loving human interchange, not a business transaction. And he actually opened his home to lots of different sick and ailing people and practiced that humor therapy as a way of healing. So he believed the number one predictor of good physical health is good mental health. And Dr. Adams still travels around the world today using laughter as a therapeutic treatment. And then we have Dr. Martin Seligman, and he's the director of the Penn Positive Psychology Center and a professor in the Penn Department of Psychology. So he's a leading authority in the fields of positive psychology, as well as resilience, learned helplessness, depression, optimism, and pessimism. So his work has led to him sharing that doing a kind act produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any exercise we've ever tested. So he believed that random acts of kindness basically helped us to feel better. So the pictures here on the screen on the left are actually from a little project that one of my friends and colleagues did for her leading up to her 40th birthday. So for 40 days prior to her birthday, she asked her friends and family and colleagues to do 40 days of random acts of kindness. And it could be anything. And so these were a couple ones. We actually had a Facebook group and shared this information. And this was one of a couple of the things that were reported that people did. A gift card was left on someone's windshield. Someone left at the laundromat. Some quarters for the machines and some laundry detergent. So her story actually went viral, and she was featured on the Today Show. So I think this is just a testament of how doing a good deed can actually help us too. You might be surprised to know that there are actually more than 17 scholarly societies and professional organizations and research networks that do study humor. So the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor is one of these organizations, and it's a nonprofit dedicated to the study and application of humor to affect positive change. So they believe the strategic use of humor sparks that human connection, increases influence, and improves communication. But also, they also believe that there's numerous benefits that to our overall health and well-being, including reduced stress, greater resilience, decreased depressive symptoms, and increased pain tolerance. So you might be seeing a pattern here in some of this research with these different people. And the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor found that there's a 39% decrease in stress simply by anticipating humor, and that people are 2 times more productive after taking a humor break. And there is a 23% increase in memory recall after watching a funny video. So if you feel like you forget stuff a lot, maybe start watching some funny videos. That'll improve your recall ability. But I did think that maybe you'd like to take a quick opportunity to check to see if you're getting enough humor in your life or not. So let's go ahead and do that here real quick. I want you to look closely at this picture. And if you see anything other than 2 dolphins, you may need some more laughter in your life. All right, so remember I told you I wanted to provide you with the opportunity to laugh. I'm going to show you a short video clip of some funny videos that will hopefully help you do that very thing.
Mana waktu aja.
All right, blow it out, buddy. Go.
Make a wish.
Ah, look at that. Way to go.
Uh-oh, here he goes. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
No, Timbo.
Oh no. Let's try really hard. Oh
How can you see? Oh, are you okay? Oh, are you okay? Aww.
Is your hand stuck? Let's get your hand out. There. Now we see. Hi, Minnie. Oh, oh, shit.
Can I see this?
Oh, you got the big one. All right, Andy.
Okay, so hopefully you got a couple laughs out of that, but what feelings did you experience while you were watching that? Just maybe put those in the chat. Happiness, joy, surprise, enjoyable. Okay. Yeah. So we said, yeah, we identify feelings of joy and happiness after watching the video. But when we start to laugh, it doesn't just lighten our load mentally, it actually induces a physical change in our body. So some of those short-term benefits that we might experience from laughter, it can stimulate many organs, enhances our intake of oxygen-rich air, and stimulates our heart and lungs and muscles, and increases those endorphins that we mentioned earlier. Activate and relieve our stress response. So by increasing our heart rate and our blood pressure, that response is activated. And then soothe tension by stimulating circulation and aiding muscle relaxation. But long-term benefits aren't, or short-term benefits aren't just the one thing that you can experience from that. It's not just a quick pick-me-up, but it can also be good for over long-term. So laughter may improve your immune system. Negative thoughts we know can decrease our immunity. So in contrast, those positive thoughts can help us fight stress and potentially a more serious illness. It can relieve pain by causing the body to produce its own natural painkillers. And then it can increase personal satisfaction. It can make it easier to cope with those difficult situations and build connections with other people. And it can also just improve our overall mood, right? It can lessen our depression or anxiety and just make us feel happier. So laughter is contagious. We know that. And so I just want to see what your thoughts are as far as how many times you think the average adult laughs. So again, if you want to take a shot at it in the chat, how many times you think the average adult laughs? 50 times, 10 times, 5, 8. We got a variety of responses. So the average adult laughs 15 times a day. So what about the average child? How many times a day do you think the average child laughs? 50, 100, 50, 30, 50, 30, 80. All right. So the average child does laugh 100 times a day. So bit of a difference there, right? I think I'd rather be with the child and laugh like a kid, right? So it's important for us to think about that in our daily lives. So how can we spread laughter and add humor to our lives? Well, here are some suggestions. Create a laughter first aid box. You know, you probably have a first aid kit of some type for those physical things that might happen. You know, it probably has Band-Aids in it, maybe a splint, those kind of things. But did you know you can build a laughter first aid kit and stash away some of those funny jokes or toys, different funny videos? You know, maybe you're familiar with a funny or entertaining social media account, a playlist of songs that make you chuckle. You can add anything that brings humor into your life, add it to your first aid kit. And then surround yourself with humor. A quick internet search for anything that you think that's funny. I picked babies because I think that those are pretty funny and they can do silly things. But, you know, maybe it's pets or other things. You know, I spent hours looking for a video clip that I thought would capture something funny for everyone. But, you know, I literally just kept watching video after video and laughing. So there's everything. It's endless what you can find out there. You know, and spend time with the world's leading experts in laughter. Children, right? We know they laugh a lot. So spend some time with them. Ask others to share jokes that they have or they know. Playing with your animals. They can be pretty funny. Anyone else spend hours laughing at their pet? You know, I know my cat, she keeps me laughing. You know, she can spend hours playing in a paper bag and just crack me up. Spending time with your family and friends who make you laugh. And I think it's important to learn to laugh at yourself. You know, I crack myself up half the time. Keep a notebook and jot down the funny things you hear or see daily. You know, life can be quite comical if we notice it. So take that opportunity to keep those things close to us. And then some of you may have heard of laughter yoga, but it might be new to others. It was actually created by Dr. I'm probably butchering the name, but Dr. Madan Kataria, and it combines laughter exercises with yoga breathing techniques. So it's practiced in more than 100 countries right now, but if you're interested in it, you can Google it, and there are all kinds of videos and information on it. There's even videos that you can follow along and do it from the comforts of your home. I also wanted to give you guys some additional resources. So there's several apps here. The 5-minute journal app, it's an opportunity for you to write down some of those different things that are funny that you see on a daily basis. Calm, it's an app that you can use that has some different mindfulness and meditations and just different things. It gives you something to do daily. We've got Headspace and Happify and Live Happy. Again, those are all different apps that you can, add on your phone. And then the Family and Consumer Science Educators that work for Ohio State University, we have 2 different blog sites. We have Live Smart Ohio and then Live Healthy, Live Well. And there's lots of different really great information on those blog sites, but several of us have written different articles on laughter and humor. So you could check that out. And then Better Than Happy podcast. If you like to listen to podcasts while you're driving from point A to point B or during your lunch or anything, that's just one that you could use. But there's lots of them out there. And then the Science of Wellbeing class at Yale, that's actually their most popular course that they've had in over 3 centuries. There's been over a million people that have taken the class, and that's just since the spring of 2018. So that's a lot of people who have signed up for the class. Lori Santos is the professor, and she has her own podcast called The Happiness Lab. I actually got to attend a session. She presented at a conference a couple years ago. She shares lots of great information. And so that is a free class. If you're interested, you can Google that. And I did look it up, and I think there's a class. That's just starting. And again, it is free. So if you're interested in learning more about that, check that out. So why laugh? Well, Charlie Chaplin says, remember it's important for our health and well-being to laugh. A day without laughter is a day wasted. And Mel Brooks says, humor is just another defense against the universe. Anne Klein shared that whether planned or not, humor takes our mind off our troubles. And I think it's true. We do know that it's hard to laugh and be upset at the same time. And then I'm sure you've heard this one, laugh and the world laughs with you. Ella Wheeler Wilcox. And finally, Lord Byron said, always laugh when you can. It's cheaper than medicine. So some final thoughts here. When you laugh, you purge your stress. A cheerful heart does good like medicine, but a broken spirit makes one sick. And then my personal favorite here is, if you eat an entire cake without cutting it, you technically have only had one piece of cake. And then the skills building for this week is the number 1 predictor of good physical health is good mental health. So if you're having a lot of physical problems, then maybe you want to give a shout out to trying to laugh a little bit. And then people are 2 times more productive after taking a humor break. Remember that laughter is contagious. It's hard to be in a room full of people laughing and not be laughing yourself. And laughter relieves that stress and tension and improves our immune system and relieves pain. So I just challenge you as, we finished up here. There's my references. I just challenge you that think about those people who are in your life that when you're with them, you laugh the most, and then see how you can spend more time with them. Think about what's your funniest memory, and maybe even add that to your journal so that you can think about that more often. Think about not only, surrounding yourself with those people that bring you happiness and laughter, but also think about things that you can share with others. Because again, that laughter is contagious. So what can you share? And then remember a serious time when you exploded into laughter. I know my daughter's 17 now. And most recently, during the epidemic, she's had several different haircuts. She does them herself in colors. And most recently, her and her friend shaved her head entirely. And I walked in on it. I was so upset. And then it ended up that the only thing I could do was laugh, right? So I'm sure that you all have those things as well in your life. So that's the end of my presentation. And I think we're going to take some questions now.
Yeah, we've only got one question. If anyone has any questions or, has any thoughts they'd like to share, please just feel free to throw them in the Q&A box. But the one we've got, I think maybe we answered this during the session, but someone asked how you feel about watching laughter, that they've recommended watching videos of babies laughing to improve moods.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and if that's not funny to you, that like I said, there's lots of different things that you can watch. And in fact, my daughter, I'll hear her laughing and I'll say, show me. She's watching something on YouTube and I'll watch it and I just think it's ridiculous. I don't laugh at all. So everyone's humor is different. So just find what works for you.
Someone asked, what was the class that has had so many people since 2018?
Okay, that was the class at Yale. And let me see, what was the exact name of it? Yeah, if you just do a Google search, it'll come up. The Science of Wellbeing class.
Okay. I think actually someone put it in the chat. Here, let me put it up there. There we go. It should be linked in the chat for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, if no one has any other questions, I think we're good to wrap up. You should be receiving the post-evaluation survey and the knowledge check here in the next 15 minutes or so. And we will wrap up this. We have another question coming in. Hold on. Any studies on how many seconds or minutes of laughter one may get on average from a sitcom that you find funny?
That's a great question. And I'm sure there's probably some kind of research out there. I'm just not familiar with that answer.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for today. So thank you everyone for joining and we'll see you next week.